The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Mission of the Vedanta, an address by Swami Vivekananda to the residents of Kumkonam in 1897, Part 8. My friends, I must now tell you a few harsh truths. I read in the newspaper how, when one of our fellows is murdered or ill treated by an Englishman, howls go up all over the country. I read and I weep, and the next moment comes to my mind the question, who is responsible for it all? As a Vedantist, I cannot but put that question to myself. The Hindu is a man of introspection. He wants to see things in and through himself, through the subjective vision. I therefore ask myself, who is responsible? And the answer comes every time. Not the English, no. They are not responsible. It is we who are responsible for all our misery and all our degradation. And we alone are responsible. Our aristocratic ancestors went on treading the common masses of our country underfoot till they became helpless. Till under this torment, the poor people nearly forgot that they were human beings. They have been compelled to be merely hewers of wood and drawers of water for centuries. So much so that they have been made to believe that they are born as slaves, born as hewers of wood and drawers of water. With all our boasted education of modern times, if anybody says a kind word for them, I often find our men shrink at once from the duty of lifting them up, these poor downtrodden people. Not only so, but I also find that all sorts of most demonical and brutal arguments, culled from the crude ideas of hereditary transmission and other such gibberish from the Western world, are brought forward in order to brutalize and tyrannize over the poor all the more. At the Parliament of Religions in America, there came among others a young man, a born Negro, a real African Negro, and he made a beautiful speech. I became interested in the young man and now and then talked to him, but could learn nothing about him. But one day in England, I met some Americans, and this is what they told me. This boy was the son of a Negro chief who lived in the heart of Africa, and that one day another chief became angry with the father of this boy and murdered him and murdered the mother also, and they were cooked and eaten. He ordered the child to be killed also and cooked and eaten. But the boy fled, and after passing through great hardships and having travelled a distance of several hundreds of miles, they reached the seashore, and there he was taken into an American vessel and brought over to America. And this boy made that speech. After that, what was I to think of your doctrine of heredity? Aye, Brahmins, if the Brahmin has more aptitude for learning on the ground of heredity than the pariah, spend no more money on the Brahmin's education, but spend all on the pariah. Give to the weak, for they are all the gift is needed. If the Brahmin is born clever, he can educate himself without help. If the others are not born clever, let them have all the teaching and the teachers they want. This is justice and reason as I understand it. Our poor people, these downtrodden masses of India, therefore, require to hear and to know what they really are. Let every man and woman and child, without respect of caste or birth, weakness or strength, hear and learn that behind the strong and the weak, behind the high and the low, behind everyone there is that infinite soul, assuring the infinite possibility and the infinite capacity of all to become great and good. Let us proclaim to every soul, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Arise, awake, awake from this hypnotism of weakness. None is really weak. The soul is infinite, omnipotent, and omniscient. Stand up, assert yourself, proclaim the God within you, do not deny Him. Too much of inactivity, too much of weakness, too much of hypnoticism has been and is upon our race. O ye modern Hindus, de-hypnotize yourself. The way to do that is found in your own sacred books. Teach yourselves, teach everyone his real nature. Call upon the sleeping soul and see how it awakes. Power will come, glory will come, goodness will come, purity will come, and everything that is excellent will come when this sleeping soul is roused to self-conscious activity. If there is anything in the Gita that I like, it is these two verses coming out as the very gist, the very essence of Krishna's teaching. He who sees the Supreme Lord dwelling alike in all beings, the imperishable and things that perish, he sees indeed. For seeing the Lord as the same everywhere present, he does not destroy the self by the self, and thus he goes to the highest goal.